Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Murray Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry. And from the edge of the Great Red Divide today, Murray, we're going to talk turkey. And I don't mean Thanksgiving.
No, we're going to talk about the country, about its connections to the U.S., and why you should care.
Exactly. Because this whole thing with Ergadon and Trump is so deep and so tangled. It's a mess.
It really is. And it's very... It's perplexing, to say the least. And the parallels between the two of them are quite interesting, as you'll see as we
When
talk.
a president refuses to set down their private business to do the work of the country, you're going to get a hot mess like this. So, Murray, let's get some background, shall we, on Ergadon?
All right. So, Ergadon is a middle-class guy who grew up in Istanbul. He ran for mayor and won his mayor.
And then what happened?
So he was the mayor of Istanbul, and he was brought up on charges for inciting racial violence.
Ergadon inciting racial violence?
Yeah, and this was back in 1994. So the country stepped in. They stripped him of his mayoralness. They barred him from politics. They banned him from politics.
And yet here we are.
And they imprisoned him for 4 months.
Uh-huh.
Which is kind of interesting because if you think about Hitler's upbringing,
Uh-huh.
Hitler tried to stage a revolution.
Right.
And he did it by inciting people against
Religious
the working class at
yes.
the first. But he was banned from politics. He was imprisoned, and that's where he wrote his manifesto. I'm not saying the two are the same, but there's some parallels there that definitely...
I think Ergadon's pulling a few pages out of that manifesto.
I could be. I have no proof, but something to definitely think
I
about.
think there's proof enough. Yeah, it's the Kurds.
So Ergadon then gets pardoned or forgiven so he can get back into politics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he runs for prime minister.
Yes.
And he was the prime minister until he became the president.
Mm-hmm.
So Ergadon is a... You have to know that Turkey has wanted to be European without the ties to Europe.
They want to be European, but they don't want to play by European rules.
And they also don't want... They've always been a secular society, so they're really kind of an outlier in that area.
Well, they
Even
were.
though like 90% of their population is Muslim.
Sunni.
Sunni Muslim.
Yeah.
They have still been in a secular government. And Ergadon, as we saw in 94, starts to really reinforce that message and push it toward a nationalist agenda, which is where you see the rise in a lot of countries. And we've mentioned this several times.
Yes.
That this is all where it sort of springs from.
Mm-hmm.
So as he became more radicalized and he grew in power, his beliefs and such created a more connection with some of the Arab countries.
Right.
As opposed to the European countries. Now,
Right.
they're a member of NATO. So when they do naughty things, we have to work together because we have an agreement to support them.
Right.
And they will support us. But you're never exactly sure where they land on the fence. Turkey, I guess, would be best described as the worldwide frenemy.
I think a frenemy. Yeah, I think frenemy is definitely where they fall, because if they like you, they're your best friend. But if they disagree with you, they're gonna blow you up.
And they're very fluid. So that's
Yeah.
why I say they're an outlier, because most countries have been invaded and shifted regimes and had many political revolutions over time, and they've been fairly stable in that
Right.
in that part of the region.
Right. I remember, at one point there was part of their civil war was with Greece, and it was a horrible barbaric war back in the 60s when I was just a wee child.
So here's another thing that's really interesting is when we talk about countries and we talk about Turkey and we talk about Ergadon, here's another parallel. Ergadon has a family, 2 daughters, and 2 son-in-laws. And those son-in-laws have risen to very high prominence, powerful positions
By marrying
under
his daughter.
Ergadon.
By marrying his daughters.
Right.
What
Democracy.
does that sound like?
Right? Democracy. Complete and total democracy. So the Turkish finance minister is like third in command of Turkey, and it's his son-in-law, Barret Al-Barak. And we're going to call him Barret from here on because I apologize for not knowing how to pronounce his name appropriately. But they call him the Kushner of Turkey.
I see that parallel.
Yes. So he is the finance minister, and he's had a lot of connections and string pulling with the Trump organization and the Trump family. Now, there's another son-in-law. His name is
Mohammed.
Sorry. Mehmet Yalkandag. Again, I apologize for butchering the name. But he's the son of a Turkish tycoon who is a partner to Trump's organization.
Oh, my. Not too tangled.
So Kushner has known him for a while, and the two of them have become very close friends. They've known each other since 2012 when Trump Tower Istanbul was launched.
And isn't that the largest private residence in Istanbul, in Turkey? And it's got a mall down below.
Yes,
yeah, and
absolutely.
It's a huge deal.
Complex.
Yeah,
it was $500 billion of revenue and whatnot has come through there. So there's a very big financial interest
from Donald Trump in Turkey,
right?
And a big IOA to Ergadon.
Could be.
Yeah.
So Mahat became BFFs with Kushner.
Yeah.
And this is well before he decided to run for president. So that relationship is there. In fact, they were such good friends that Mohammed, I'm so sorry.
Only because I have a friend named Mohammed.
I am name illiterate tonight, and I do sincerely apologize. So Mohammed actually said that Trump really didn't have any odds on being president, but he went to be with Kushner and Trump on election eve.
Flew in.
So he flew 12 hours from Istanbul that day to be there on the night.
Yep.
Within 3 days, the Turkish embassy could not reach Donald Trump, so they had to reach out to Mehmet in order to get Trump's contact information.
The Turkish embassy couldn't reach the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Or the president-elect.
But they could get a hold of him through the son-in-law of the president.
No conflict of interest there.
No, not at all.
She says sarcastically.
He also set up the back channels for the communications with Kushner. It got filtered through that process.
Nothing Trump loves more than back channel communications.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want to do anything above board because we never have. So, so why change as president? Why find honor?
I don't think there are any. So then we kind of move our story advances forward. We have Trump in power. We have a close connection between the two families, financial interests, financial ties.
Yep.
And they're very similar in their characteristics. Ergadon has been known to remove social media from the country, to limit freedom of press.
Yes.
He is much more dictator-like.
His detractors suddenly disappear or die mysteriously.
Yeah, they do sort of randomly disappear.
Kind of like Putin's and Kim Jong-un's. Oh, and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Let's not forget Khashoggi. So.
Oh, absolutely not. And that brings up a really good point when we talk about Khashoggi. Khashoggi happens a little later than 2017. So in 2017, he was being lobbied to remove sanctions on a Turkish bank. And the bank is
Halk Bank.
Halk Bank. It's the 7th largest bank in Turkey. But the problem was the Justice Department was investigating the bank
Right.
because they were laundering money. One man who is Turkish and Iranian was laundering Iranian gold
Oh, that's right.
through, or laundering Turkish
It
gold
would be Reza.
through. Go ahead, yeah, Reza.
Reza Zaharda?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so his job was to clean the money and make sure that they could provide support without getting hit with sanctions.
And Murray, who is that merchant's lawyer?
Oh yeah, so
Another connection.
Reza that we just
Reza,
mentioned,
yeah.
attorney is Rudy Giuliani.
Right.
And this is all in 2017. So Ergadon calls Donald and pressures or
Quid pro quos him.
quid pro quos him, and we don't know what the offer was or the
something.
incentive or blackmail was. But Ergadon pressures Trump into telling Rex Tillerson, who was the Secretary of State at
That time in 2017.
to drop the investigation, to get the Justice Department to end the investigation into Reza.
Yeah.
Giuliani's attorney or Giuliani's client is being investigated for laundering money and avoiding sanctions through a state-run bank to Iran.
Right.
And
some of the bribe money was in the tens of millions of dollars to multiple people.
many people. The scheme went.
It was deep.
It was
huge.
very, very deep.
It was wide. And it
So-
was deep.
So there's just a coincidence there, huh? That the guy who was laundering the money and getting it where it wasn't supposed to go. This would be a really good time to take a look at tax returns.
Right.
I would love to see those tax returns. Supreme Court, I truly hope you take the case, and I hope you say yes to turn them over. Because I think we're going to see some interesting information come out. And this goes back to 2012, when we're not talking about his recent tax returns.
Right.
We're talking about past ones. And it does cover that time frame, which ties us into Turkey.
Exactly, Marie. Exactly. So now at 2017, and then we move forward.
And this is where the banks, another organization within Turkey's chairman, Akim Appelkin.
We'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay. He's the one who hired Michael Flynn for $500,000.
Why Michael Flynn's in prison.
Why Michael Flynn's in prison to lobby on behalf of the Turkish government in regards to sanctions.
You know, Murray, if we had one of those pin boards with strings,
I
those
swear
strings
to
would
you,
be going to Trump.
I'm feeling like I need to do some sort of serial killer thing up here,
I
like
think
detectives
so.
do.
Yeah.
Where we put all of the string, because I have it all on paper and it drives me insane. And then I'm like, no, I've got to change this.
We've got a big enough wall.
It's like a beautiful mind type creepy stuff. I don't know. Yeah, we might have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, the point. Well, we'll get to the point, but it is disheartening that so many people don't understand why these connections are important. They aren't given the information. We wouldn't have had the information that Reza was Giuliani's client. It hasn't been published. It hasn't been newsworthy with all the other things going on. And when you put all the pieces of the puzzle together, it is impossible to not say that something is wrong.
It's, at the very least, a huge distraction from being president of the United States, if not downright criminal.
So let's move on to 2018, shall we?
Oh, yes. Let's go there.
Okay, so
Muhammad. Sorry.
Ooh.
It was her this time, not me.
It was me. So Muhammad also lobbied, or actually, our friend Appelkin, we're going to go with that, actually was pressuring Mnuchin not to impose the sanctions that were placed on Turkey based on their behavior. And he agreed to it.
Oh, of course, Steve Mnuchin's always down for a little...
Which was against the law because they were legally define sanctions, so he chose to go around it.
Yes. Steve Mnuchin.
Yeah, yay, Steve Mnuchin.
Yeah.
So here we
Creepy
go.
dude.
All right. So the Halk Bank is in this big scheme laundering money to avoid sanctions because they're helping out Iran.
Right.
So we've got Giuliani, we've got Flynn, we've got Reza, we've got
Tillerson.
Mnuchin. I'm name just challenged tonight.
There's so many names, but they all go back to one person.
We've got Ergadon. We have the other son,
Barrett, yeah.
And we have the Kushners.
Yes.
So as we go into 2018, they were able to get, Trump tried to pressure the investigation to being dropped into Halk Bank. And the Justice Department did not, because those charges were brought about on the 18th in 2018, in October of 2018.
Halk Bank.
Halk Bank.
Halk Bank.
Halk Bank.
Halk Bank is. Wouldn't that be a Black Eyed Peas song?
Maybe. Might be right.
Might be a heck of a song.
So, as we're looking at the world case, we're seeing these connections, and then we take a look, and we don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but we do need to mention that it is a secular country, but moving more and more toward Muslim controlled.
Well, towards a caliphate, which is a religious ruled country. And religious ruled countries tend, especially a caliphate which comes in through the Sunni part of Islam, tends to be very repressive towards women, towards progress. Not a good move
Towards the West.
They move away from the West, and they move more towards Arab countries. Become more like Saudi Arabia. So that's troubling. As women, we deal with a lot of oppression, and this looks like it's not going to go well for the women of that country. So
when does it ever go well for women of any country?
And we're going to do that show next.
We sure are. We're going to do a deep dive into that show. But so now we're, let's finish up where we are. We're in 2018, and the Justice Department goes ahead and says, "Hey, no, we're going to bust you out anyway."
Right.
His attorney is Rudy Giuliani, but Ergadon did successfully pressure Trump into not enforcing sanctions,
right,
and into allowing him to take over, to kick the Kurds out.
Right.
And you really just have to go, okay, so the country is Muslim. Ergadon is very Muslim, and very proud of that. Why did Trump ban those other countries? Why are there countries in the Muslim ban? He is clearly friends with brutal dictators of all religions,
including Ergadon.
Races.
In fact, Ergadon got to spend time at our White House, which is outrageous. As
we talked about the importance with Ukraine and the appearance, world leaders can meet in various places. They often meet in neutral territories.
Right.
It's a sign of deference to go to another world leader's and be received by a world leader.
Right.
It's this part of diplomacy.
It is.
And for someone who was pulled out of power for inciting religious riots
and is doing it again now with bigger weapons,
is someone who is working with the Iranians to avoid sanctions, someone who has journalists killed. I mean, and who has a plutocracy, a family where they're all in control below him.
Right.
It makes you see the parallels between the two, and it makes you yet go, so what did Yemen? Why did Libya? Why were certain countries considered a part of that first ban?
Well, the answer to that, because we studied in depth to see if it was a difference between being a Sunni Muslim or a Shia Muslim, and we really couldn't make that work. But what we did come up with is the business dealings from the Trump organization in the countries that were banned. He had no business dealings. So he doesn't have business dealings in Yemen or Somalia.
Neither, and those areas don't have vital resources that are needed. or
Somalia has
natural
nothing.
resources.
Yemen has nothing.
So you look at the situation.
They're poor
and
countries.
You have to go. Okay, he doesn't want oil because Turkey doesn't have any. They import all of their energy.
No, but he got all of what Syria had, and
Yeah,
made a
yes, he
big
did.
and made a big deal about the oil's safe. We've got control of the oil. Donald Trump, let me tell you something. That's an impeachable offense. So
Oh, so many impeachable offenses. But what I
So
just
little
find
time.
so interesting is that we wonder what he has over him. We know there's a financial interest. We know there's a familial connection, but to give in on multiple demands made. Maybe that's where Trump got the idea to extort Zelensky. Other world leaders do it to him, so he gets to do it to others.
and he's 100%.
The evangelicals would love that. Do unto others as they do unto you. Oh, baby, they would love to hear that.
Preach, girl. Well, the
I
thing.
left my snake at home.
No snake handling, please. I can't stand snakes, so I don't kill them. I just don't want them around me.
Snakes
So
don't bother me. As long as they don't eat me, I'm okay.
yeah,
Yeah, and as long as they're not venomous or they've had their venom sucked.
I leave them alone. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I just don't want them around, and I don't want to handle them. But there's
Boy,
no
it would be nice to get rid of the snakes in Washington.
Yes.
And the snakes in Turkey. And the snakes in the Ukraine. And I just
snakes
like
in Russia.
to say that if Donald Trump was really interested in fighting corruption,
No, he's not.
he would not have pressured the Justice Department to drop charges against a person who was scamming the sanction system.
Well, and that would be Mnuchin. And, that would be Ergadon. That would be all of those things. Giuliani, all of those things tied
So
up
he doesn't
together.
care
He
about
doesn't care about
corruption at
corruption,
all.
except what corruption he can get away with personally
So-
to
and-
benefit himself financially.
So he's friends with Ergadon. He's
Yes.
friends with Turkey. He's very comfortable in that country.
Yes.
He has this relationship because he has a huge project there.
Right.
His son-in-law is, buddies with the prince's son-in-law.
Yeah.
And so those relationships, I think, helped shape, and that was all before he even thought about running for office. So do you think there was any interest in Ergadon potentially helping him since they were friends?
Oh, I'm sure.
He knew about it, and
Yeah.
then you tie Ergadon to Russia.
Well, and the thing with Ergadon and Turkey, and we can tie it all back to Saudi Arabia, and I know we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, is through Khashoggi, killed in a Turkish embassy. I can't even wrap my head around the level of horror that they're willing to stoop to and to cover things up, and that they're allowed to get away with it under this Trump administration. The fact that there's been no sanctions against Turkey or the Saudis or Russia for all of the evil that they've perpetrated under his watch.
Yeah. And then again, we go back to why is that? Is it just who he is? Look at Hitler went through a very similar thing that Ergadon went through.
Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
created this dictator. Now Trump's never been in jail, probably because his daddy's lawyers got him off and it all went away. But, he's also a criminal in that respect. And, he's not smart enough to write a manifesto. But I think
In Cran, maybe.
maybe in crayon.
With hamburgers.
But they see each other, and it just really surprised me the close personal relationships that he has
Yes.
and his family has with Ergadon.
But-
because that's never portrayed, that's never brought out. I think that the administration has been very cautious about keeping that down until he had him at the White House.
Well, and my belief is that when one psychopath sees another psychopath, they are drawn to each other like magnets.
Oh,
They are just pulled together
That's a good point.
Well, and the thing is that what Erdogan is doing and his rule of his country is where Trump would like to see himself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you have that type of patriarchal governance, where all power and all money is
and
controlled.
there is definitely misogyny there because,
Yes.
the son-in-laws are the ones that hold positions in the cabinet.
Not the
Ivanka
daughters.
is not even an official person. She's not even paid. She's not an official advisor.
Well, but she's
But
benefiting
Kushner
financially.
is. But
But Kushner never passed.
He didn't pass the security, but he's still an official advisor.
I know.
He's still an ambassador. He's still in charge.
Let me tell you.
And yet, Ivanka's not.
If any other president had surrounded himself with a whole bunch of people that could not pass their security clearances, we would be outraged. Why are we not outraged with Donald Trump? I am outraged.
I am stuttering because it is exactly.
Yeah.
Completely outraged.
Right.
So now let's tie it all back together. We know that Trump knew Ergadon. Big money, big building, lots of money come from. We don't know if they gave him money to make that happen. We just know there was a big deal. They're all buddies.
And there's money laundering.
Pressured him to drop the investigation against Halk Bank. Pressured him to remove the sanctions. Pressured him to not enforce the sanctions. Pressured him to drop an investigation into the individual laundering the money. Pressured him into allowing them to invade Syria. So why does this affect us? Because it affects our credibility on the national stage.
Oh my gosh.
On the world stage. It
right.
affects who we are as a nation. Okay, so he said, quid pro quo. Maybe you don't think it was bad, or maybe you know people who are like, it really wasn't that bad. It could have been worse. No. When you have people that favor the not Zelensky's,
right?
When you have people that emulate and have relationships with Ergadon, a dictator, with
exactly
Putin, with Kim Jong-un, with President Xi, all of these show you who they are. And why is it important? Because the things we are doing, you say you want endless wars to end. We're not ending any wars. We're just realigning where our alliances will be.
We're making the world a far more unstable place to live. Never has there been less religious freedom in the world than there is right now.
And never has there been
worse.
Such a rise of
nationalism.
Right-wing nationalism. Even Canada, our sweet, sweet neighbors to the north, have been invaded over the last 20 years.
I know, with a bunch
20, 30 years is when the rise of the right has happened in the world.
Well, you see it
it ties into religion.
In New Zealand, in Australia, in Turkey, in Afghanistan, in Italy, Germany.
In England,
right? And you have to understand that when we have this rise of nationalism, and the United States, who is supposed to be a leader, has as the head of its country a person who is corrupt, who is in love with corruption,
who is morally bankrupt,
who defends corruption as just a way of doing business. This is not business. This is the human condition. This is the world condition, and it is intolerable.
And it's important to understand that it's nice that we're not fighting and we're not in a Cold War or a hot war in different areas.
We're in a hybrid war now.
We are. We're in an
information war.
But it's nice to know that we're not, at the verge of nuclear war with these folks at any given moment.
That could
dictators.
change anytime now.
But we're also, by embracing them, allowing their ideologies and their lack of religious freedom and their nationalism to spread and push farther into our countries, which gives rise to terrorism and terrorist groups.
And we are creating terrorists by what we are doing, what we are perpetrating against others on our own soil, as far as things along our southern border with Mexico and Central America and South America. We are perpetrating this through this Muslim travel ban, because that's what it is.
We're perpetrating this by pulling out our troops out of Syria and allowing thousands of Kurdish people to be slaughtered at the behest of a brutal dictator under the guise of democracy, which is where we are today.
By Trump pardoning 2 war criminals.
Sweet Jesus, that's a topic for another
day
too.
I have several nephews in service, and they are just so disheartened and so sickened by this. It's stomach turning,
So it affects you because it gives the U.S. less credibility. It affects you because it increases the risk of terrorism. It affects you because it takes away the foundations, the principles of what this country was based on. And if you don't think that taking those principles away isn't going to affect every financial relationship, every global relationship, every war relationship, and not going to lead us to places we don't want to be, then that's why it's important to you.
So you need to care, and you need to follow the timeline that Marie's slowly developing.
It just keeps getting bigger, and I think I am gonna like put one up here, like some sort of crazy lunatic.
Well,
I want to do that.
I used to read Tony Hillerman books, and I've read all of them. And one of his characters, Joe Leaphorn, used to take pins and put them, a pin for
with a string.
No, he had no strings. It was just a map of, he put these pins in. And I can just picture if we used like yellow pins for everything Trump has done wrong, the whole map would be yellow.
Yeah.
So, and I highly recommend
I'm going to have to watch an
series.
episode of Criminal Minds to make sure I get the flow right.
Yeah. So I have never really watched Criminal Minds, but I have read Joe Leaphorn.
So we hope we've given you some information and showed you some connections and some names that go way back.
Yeah.
Turkey, it's not surprising that Ergadon got Trump to allow Turkey to invade Syria at all. Look at their history. What does he have on him? There's something there. So thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your feedback.
We would love to see where you think this is going, because we start researching for an episode and it takes us down so many rabbit holes, and eventually we're so far off topic we have to reel it back in and narrow it down to one theme. And so we would love to know what you think.
Absolutely. So please, if you like us, subscribe, like, share. It's really important. Follow, donate.
If you want to.
You can go ahead and do that too. And to the woman who was upset by our Tulsi Gabbard episode, I would like to say I can understand your point of view, but you did not listen to the entire episode. If you listen to the episode, you'll see that we do not claim that she's a Russian asset or a plant or anything along those lines.
We merely thought it was amusing that
we give facts about what she has done and her relationship with different leaders and her opinions, and let you draw the conclusions.
And remember, Hillary Clinton never named her. Never.
So bring it, because she was ripping on the Yang gang, and now she's like on the Yang train. So if you think you have a comment or you think we're doing something wrong, bring it. We'd love to hear from you.
I never ripped on Andrew Yang. I like Andrew Yang.
Oh, you
He's
did
a
in the
smart
beginning.
Man.
In the beginning.
Well, I thought he was a one-trick pony.
She was not a Yang fan.
Well, I all of them, but Gabbard and Williamson.
So this is how we start and this is how we end, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.